Hi, Sir Herwin.
Laki ng DP mo.
Laki ng DP ko. Hindi ko siya matry kanina eh. Kasi wala akong kasum.
I like the Black Hawk. May kaluha ba yan natin? May kapatid ba yan?
Eh di ko isend sa'yo.
Wow!
Kaya lang ibababa ko dapat, no?
Medyo konti. Para medyo kita siya. Pahanga ba? Ate, may ibababa mo yun. Sabi ko nga, medyo para makita pa. Sabi ko, may pasobra. Pahanga ba? Oo, syempre. Proud to be Opta student.
Oo, kasi hindi makita eh. Kailangan
Baba mong kaunti eh.
Yeah. Okay. Hindi ko kasi siya makita kanina eh. Laki ng DP ko ah.
Ang ganda nga eh.
Mababa ko.
Kaya pala nag-request
Kaya kailangan
ng
ko
logo
pa
ng
sila
Gupta.
logo. Ha? Kaya ako nag-aas ng logo ng Gupta.
I-edit pala kanina.
Wala lang. Natutuwa lang ako.
Nice one, ate. I like that.
Nalagay ko pa sana yung caricature na siguro gano'n na nagdala. Napakadami naman. Pero wala akong makita hindi ako marunong mag-drawing eh.
Okay na yan, ate. Simplicity is beauty.
Okay, hello, good evening, everyone. Hello.
Yes.
Good evening po, kuya.
So,
Okay, one more holy song before we officially start. Okay, good evening. Okay, again, good evening, everyone. So welcome to our session this evening. So today is March 10, 2021, Wednesday evening, and the 16th session of today's online Divine Principle Lecture. So to officially start this, let us sing our Chunilgok anthem. Okay, I would like to ask Sister Sylvia for the opening prayer.
Okay, good evening, our loving Heavenly Parents and true parents. Good evening, everyone. Please let us put ourselves in the presence of our loving Heavenly Parents. Let us all pray. Please join me in prayer. Good morning to you, or good evening to your loving Heavenly Parents and victorious parents, the parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. Every day, Heavenly Parents, is indeed a great day. we would like to express our gratitude for this beautiful day and opportunity that you have given to all of us, that we are once again gathered as one family despite our distance. And we are grateful to this platform that you had provided for all of us. Because of this, we can really continue, enhance our understanding, and develop our connectivity to you, nurture our artistic relationship with you, Heavenly Parents, through the divine principle that we are all learning together. As we start this session, we would like to invite your divine presence to be amidst us all, to all our participants to always be awake artistically, and to our lecturers to be used by you as your true working instrument in conveying your words, Heavenly Parents, so that we can all together be able to deepen our anchorage to you, Heavenly Parents, and return to that very original idea of creation. All of us can really be able to practice, Heavenly Parents, what we could really learn from these online sessions that we're having. May it be that we can really be able to unite, centering upon your will, and that this condition can really be acceptable before you. It could really become a good condition for you to work through all of us, Heavenly Parents, to really become a true participant in the realization of your kingdom here on earth, the Holy Parents community, Heavenly Parents. Thank you so much for our true parents, great and victorious foundation. Because of this, of them, we are now standing on that foundation, Heavenly Parents. So may we can really be able to always reflect and go back to that, Heavenly Parents, and inherit this, Heavenly Parents, by understanding more and practicing more of what we could really learn. Thank you also for protecting our true mother and protecting all our leaders, Heavenly Parents, both locally and internationally. Thank you also for our immediate adults, Heavenly Parents, who had been there always supporting us and unceasingly been guiding us, Heavenly Parents, as our representative of yours. Thank you so much once again for everything. And I would like to humbly report all these things to you in my name, Sylvia De Perez and the Bus family. Ajo.
Ju, thank you. Okay, please open your camera for picture taking. Si Patrick, Christinette, hello. Okay. Okay. First, small heart. With smile. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, Songni Vision 2027. Songni,
Ang
Songni,
picture.
Songni.
First,
Saglit lang po, kuya. Sino po na-picture po, kuya?
sa
Saglit
atin,
po. Sorry.
Ikaw, di ba?
Sorry po, kuya. Okay, once again,
Okay.
brothers and sisters.
Okay, once again,
Sorry.
nauna tayo, advance. Okay. Okay, small heart first.
Small heart, brothers and sisters. Hana, Dulcet. Smile. Okay.
Okay. Next, Songni Vision 2027. Songni, Songni.
Wait lang po, kuya. Saglit lang po. Naghang po yung camera po. Nawala sa Zoom. Okay, again.
Again, Songni Vision 2027. Okay, Songni, Songni, Songni. Okay, the last but not the least. Ibaragi Sinang.
Okay po, ibaragis ng Hana, Dulcet. Thank you po, brothers and sisters.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So, this evening, our topic will be Chapter 5 of the Part 2 of the Divine Principle, the preparation for the second advent of the Messiah. So, this will be discussed to us by our elder sister, Sister Relina Dulendo. But before that, while preparing for her screen, I'll give, let's have recap on chapter 4. So chapter 4 is about the parallel between two ages in the providence of restoration. So there we learned that the ultimate purpose of the providence of restoration is to lay the foundation for the Messiah. So if it is prolonged, then the dispensation must be repeated. So that's why to restore this, the foundation of this dispensation, it must be repeated again. So that's why we have this parallel between these two ages. So now, without further ado, please help me in welcoming our lecturer this evening, Sister Relina Dolindo.
Good evening. Let me first share my screen. Dami pala niya. Ano ito? Good evening, brothers and sisters. Today we will be discussing chapter 5 of the part of the Divine Principle, which is the period of preparation for the second advent of the Messiah. So we will be sharing about what happened during the period of preparation for the second advent, which is 400 years. The period of preparation for the second advent of the Messiah was the 400-year period for the Protestant Reformation in 1517 to the end of World War I in 1918. With respect to the providence of restoration, this period is divided into three periods, 400 years. The period of the Reformation, the period of religious and ideological conflicts, and the period of maturation of politics, economy, and ideology. So, the period of preparation for the second advent was divided into three, just like the three growth stages, which is formation, growth, and completion. First is the formation is the reformation, and then the growth is uh, the religious and ideological conflicts, and maturation, and the completion is the maturation of politics, economy, and ideology. So let us now learn these three periods one by one. First is the period of Reformation, which runs from 1517 to 1648. The 130 year of the Reformation began in 1517 with Martin Luther raised the banner of the Protestant Reformation and lasted until the wars of religion were settled by the Treaty of Westphalia. So the first stage of the preparation is the started is a 100-year period which began with Reformation. So basahin niyo na lang dun sa 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 history kung sino si Martin Luther. Ang ano lang is Martin Luther is a German monk. Siya yung nag-start no Reformation, yung Protestant Reformation through his 95 thesis. So kung paano nangyari 'yon, ang gusto naman niya, wala naman siyang balak humiwalay sa Catholic Church, to the Holy Catholic Church. Pero he was persecuted and he was excommunicated kaya nahiwalay siya. Pero ang gusto lang naman niya ay magkaroon ng reformation sa pamamalakad ng Holy Catholic Church. So, yun yun. So, yun yung gusto lang niya, pero yun yung nangyari. At natapos yung yung Treaty of Westphalia, ito yung end of European War, yung 30 years na pinakamadugong wars sa Europe noong 1648. Yun yung It ended with the Treaty of Westphalia. Yung details nito, aralin nyo na lang sa history. So, in the late Middle Ages, that is, pag sinabi nating Middle Ages, we mean 5th century to 15th century. So, yun yun. Yun yung niya. Man's original mind was repressed. So, its pre-development blocked by the social environment of feudalism and the secularization and corruption of the Roman Church. Medieval Europeans were prompted by the impulses of their inmost heart to break down their social environment to open the way for the restoration of their original nature. So ano ba yung social environment ng feudalism? Ito yung lahat ng sa feudalism, sa social environment na to, yung feudalism, magkakasama kasi ito yung politics, economic, at saka yung politics, economics, at saka ano yung isa? Religion. Yes. Politics, saka economics, saka religion, or yung ways of faith. Ayun yun. So yung sa feudalism kasi, yung lahat ng lupa is pag-aari ng king, di ba? Or kung sino yung monarch, yung king, pag-aari ng king. Ngayon meron siyang magbibigay ngayon ng land yung king sa kanyang mga vassals or form na yun yung ititil yun yung gagamit, kaya sila magkakaroon ng mga vassals o kaya yung thief na sinasabi nila para in place ng military power or protection. So ano man yung produce ng land, yun i-offer nila yun yung gagamitin nila sa pamumuhay nila, at saka most of it will be given offered to the Lord or yung sa king. So ganun siya. Ganun umiikot yung feudalism nung panahon ng Middle Ages hanggang before yung second yung after yung revolution, yung French Revolution. So napag-aralan natin mamaya. So yung dahil nga yung gusto lang ng king yung masusunod, dahil gusto lang nung king yung masusunod, sumusunod sila dun sa king, at through its basal, yung mga yung mga tagasunod ng king, yung mga mas mababa ng king. So yung kanilang sa kanilang yung kanilang original ay nare-rest. At the same time, during this time kasi, yung mga kings ay meron na ding secularization. Pag sinabi natin secularization and corruption of the Roman Church, kasi meron nang yung panahon na to, meron ng mga may pope na dito, di ba? Pero hindi naman sila, ang mga pope ay parang advisor ng mga king, di ba? So, minsan, iba ang purpose ng church is to lead people or humanity, yung lahat ng tao pabalik kay God. Pero nasa secularize kasi yung Roman Church at that time dahil nga nakakalimutan nila yung original mission nila is to lead people back to God, pero ang pinagsisilbihan na nila ay yung king. Kung ano yung gusto ng king, yun yung sinusunod nila. Kaya yun. Kasi as advisor, hindi na siya nakaka-advise para makabalik yung mga tao kay God, kundi nasusunod niya yung king. Kaya na-secularize yung Roman Church. Ito yung ibig sabihin nitong na to. So, sa panahon na to, so yung feudalism plus yung secularization ng Roman Church that is led by the clergy, which is being led by the Pope. So the king type movement began as a revival of Hellenism. Pag sinabi natin king type, kasi external, di ba? Alam natin na external. Nagkaroon ng external movement at na-revive yung Hellenism. It gave rise to, ano bang ibig sabihin ng Hellenism? Pag sinabi natin Hellenism, ito yung Greek culture. Yung Greek culture, kung matatandaan nyo nung high school, natatandaan ko yung Greek culture, yan yung natin, wherein yung Hellenism kasi ito, since external siya, yung ways yung mga etiquette, ganon, yung tungkol sa art, yung ganon, yung mga beauty, yung naka-center siya sa ganon, which is, alam naman natin pag sinabi natin king type, yun ganun, external nga siya. So, na-revive yung Greek culture, wherein okay naman siya kasi nga dinidevelop yung external part ng humanity. Ang problema lang kasi sa Hellenism, alam naman natin kung natatandaan niyo yung Greek mythology ninyo, marami silang god. Sa Hellenism, marami silang god, polyistic god sila. So, marami silang god, di ba? Lahat ng god doon nakatira sa Olympus ba? Tapos si Zeus, ganon. Yung pinakamas na uri ng god. So, yun lang yung problema sa king type ay sa Hellenism. So, yung Hellenism, yung revival ng Hellenism, it gave rise to Renaissance. Ano ba yung Renaissance? Ang ibig sabihin nito, ibang ibig sabihin ng rebirth, whose core value was humanism. So, ang core, yung rebirth siya, rebirth ito ng kultura ng both Greek at saka Roman. Alam naman natin, Roman culture. Alam naman natin from sa literature, doon ko siya naintindihan dati, na yung Greek ay yung Roman, ginaya niya yung ng Greek. Yun yung ganon. Pero at this time, dun sa during the Renaissance, revive niya yung from Hellenism, nag-revive during the rebirth, din yung classical uh, origins ng humanity ay was revived through the Renaissance, which is ang core value niya is humanism. Kaso ang problema ng humanism kasi lang siya, nag nag uh, nakasentro sa kakayanan ng tao. Yung parang inelevate niya yung sarili niya sa kakayahan niya without na nang malayo kay God. Ibig sabihin walang kinalaman si God sa kanila. Parang ganon. Nakasentro lang sa kakayahan ng tao. Yun. And the able type, yun sa Cain type. So dalawa yung isang type, di ba? The able type movement began as a revival of Hebraic heritage of Israel. Pag sinabi natin Hebraic heritage of Israel at sinabi natin able type, ibig sabihin this is God-fearing, yung palapit kay God. Yung kay kasi Cain type, palayo kay God eh. Nakasentro sa tao, yung original value ng tao, pero palayo kay God. Pero yung tamang Hebraic heritage, palapit kay God. Kasi ito yung pag sinabi natin Hebraic heritage, ito yung lahi ni Moises. Diba yung mga Hebrew, si lahi ni Moises na nagmula kay Jacob, diba? Yung mga from yung mga tao na napunta dun sa Egypt na tawag dito, they have paid yung failure ni Abraham not to cut the So yun yung Hebraic heritage. Yun yung this is the heritage or the origins of the chosen people of Israel. And the early Christian church. Yung early Christian church as built by Jesus Christ, di ba? And the apostles, kasi yun. It gave rise to the Protestant Reformation, whose core value was faith in God. So kaya nga sinasabi ko kanina, sa Protestant Reformation, in-start to ni Martin Luther, pero wala naman siyang balak humiwalay sa Roman Catholic Church. Gusto lang niya ng pagbabago. So ito yung dalawang type ng movement sa Reformation period. Yung Cain type movement na sa Renaissance and Humanism, and then sa Abel type movement na which is centered sa Hebraic heritage, sa chosen people of God, and until yung Protestant Reformation, which is led by Martin Luther, which is God fearing or papunta kay God. So ano yung Renaissance? Magsumin tayo sa Renaissance, which or rebirth. Medieval Europeans' external pursuits, pag sinabi natin kasing Renaissance, kasi external to. External siya or Cain type ito, di ba? Movement. Sa previous slide, external pursuits of the original nature led to a movement to revive the ancient heritage of Hellenism. Yung sinasabi ko nga, yung heritage ng Hellenism is yung kultura ng mga Grego or yung Greek. This brought about the Renaissance. We are created to attain perfection by fulfilling our given responsibility of our own free will. So alam naman natin, di ba, we have already understand na kailangan yung external saka internal must develop. So kailangan kahit na Cain side to, yung Cain side, kailangan mag-develop also, di ba? Sabay silang mag-develop. We are to attain oneness with God and acquire true autonomy. Therefore, it is the calling of our original nature to pursue freedom and autonomy. Yung freedom, napag-aralan na natin itong freedom na to, chapter 2 ng part 1, di ba? Na walang kinalaman yung freedom sa fall of man. So ito rin as the original nature of man develop, kailangan talagang mag-develop din yung external nature of humanity. Kaya kailangan siyang mag-develop sa panahon ng preparation for the second advent. Ito yung kailangan natin maintindihan. Yung external sa internal, kailangan mag-develop siya, whether it is Cain type or Abel type. So dito, kailangan magdi-develop siya in preparation for the second advent. So, a person of perfect character understands the will of God and puts it into practice through his own insight and reason. Ito yung humanistic point of view. Hence, it is only natural that we pursue reason and understanding. Wala namang talaga naman na tama lang naman na mag-pursue tayo ng reason and understanding. Kasi nga, external, natin yun side ng humanity yun. We also are endowed with God-given right to master the natural world. When we say mastering the natural world is yung science. Diba? Science. Kailangan i-develop natin yung natural world through science. Hence, we value the natural world, pursue science, and esteem the practical life. So, yun. Kasi during this time, during the Renaissance, suppress sila. So, nag-reform at they ask reform through para magkaroon ng mapurso nila yung God-given right to master the natural world. So, as the people advocated humanism, they also rebelled against the ritualism and rules of the church which were constraining their free devotion. So, habang ina-advocate nila yung humanism nila, nagre-rebel din sila sa ritualism ng church. Kasi dalawa siya, di ba? Isang monarchy yung king at saka yung church yung nagre-repress sa kanila. They fought against the stratified feudal system and papal authority which deprived them of autonomy as an individual, and protested the medieval view that faith required unquestioning obedience to the dictates of the church in all areas of life, which denied them the right to worship God according to the dictates of conscience based on their own reading of the Bible. So even reading of the Bible during this time is prohibited. Dapat kung ano lang sinabi ng pare or of the clergy, yun yung masusunod. Hindi bawal man mag-read ng Bible sa panahon na to. Pero may mga kasi, di ba, because of the Industrial Revolution noong 1613, nagkaroon ng di ba, na nagkaroon ng mass production, printing. So nagkaroon ng mass production ng Bible, kaya may mga mayayaman na tao na pwedeng makaread ng Bible. Kasi dumami na siya na nagkaroon ng mass production. They also question the otherworldly and ascetic monastic ideal which devalued the natural world, science, and the practical affairs of life. Many medieval Christians revolted against the rule of papacy. So maraming alam naman natin, pag babasahin natin yung history talaga, maraming nag-revolt against the rule of papacy. Kasi nga yung mga pari at that time ay naging ano sila, naging palalo, abusive. So section 2, so yun yung section, yun yung una, yun yung first period, yung Reformation as led by Martin Luther na natapos sa Treaty of Westphalia. Now, sa section 2 is the period of religious and ideological conflicts which ran from 1648 to 1789. The period of religious and ideological conflicts refers to the 140 years beginning with the secure establishment of Protestantism at the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648. So, na-establish yung Protestantism during the Treaty of Westphalia and it ending with the French Revolution in 1789. Yung end ng French Revolution is also nung 1789 is also the end of most of yung mga panahon ng yung ng mga kings ng basta panahon ng mga kings. Yon. Karamihan doon nag-end. As modern people continue to pursue the internal and external desires of their original nature, so they could not avoid divisions in theology and dispute among philosophies arising from freedom of faith and thought. So because of the Renaissance, na-open yung mind nila, so nag-continue sila yung pursuit ng internal and external desire. So nagkaroon ito pa rin, nagpatuloy pa rin yung Cain type and Abel type views of life developed in this period. So pareho pa rin silang So sa Cain type view of life, internal desire is reformation. Reformation ng pamamalakad dun sa church or religion. Kasi alam naman natin, pag tinignan mo kung anong literal meaning ng religion is that re is again, di ba? Legion is meeting. Sino ba yung ka-meeting mo again? Di ba si God, yung creator mo. So yun yung ginagawa ito yung ginagawa nung Reformation. Kasi katulad nga nasabi ko, hindi naman gustong humiwalay sa Roman Empire, hindi gustong humiwalay ni Martin Luther. Gusto lang niya nang magbago according to sa original purpose ng churches. Pero yun nga, nag-excommunicate siya. Whereas dun sa Cain type view of life naman is yung external desire or the external development of humanity, which is the Cain type view of life. So hindi natin masasabi originally kung hindi nag-fall yung man, yung external saka internal desire of external desire of man should also be developed ng sabay. Kaya ganito, in preparation for the second coming, kailangan talaga mag-develop yung dalawa na ito. Para pagdating ng second coming, handa na sila. So God has worked His providence of restoration throughout the course of history as repeatedly separating those representing evil from those representing Cain. In these last days, His fallen world is divided into the Cain type communist world and the Abel type democratic world. Just as the foundation of the substance could have been laid in Adam's family, had Cain submitted to Abel and obeyed him in the last days, And Cain type word is to submit to the Abel type. Ito yung sinasabi niya dito. Dapat yung just like alam natin dun sa chapter dun sa Adam's family, dapat kasi 'di ba si Cain dapat mag-submit kay Abel. Kasi nga because of the subject and object relationship para ma-form mo yung perfection ng four position foundation. This is necessary before we can receive Christ at the second advent and realize the unified world. So kailangan yung Cain type mag-submit siya sa Abel type views of life. For this to happen, two views of life would later mature in these two worlds had to be developed in this period. So as preparation for the second advent, kailangan mag-mature siya. So let us now learn yung Cain type view of life. Renaissance humanism elevated human beings and the natural world over God. Ito yung naging problema niya kasi ng external inelevate niya yung sarili ng yung human beings, yung sarili niya na mas mataas pa kay God. Ibig sabihin, lumayo sila kay God, di ba? The Renaissance established a new perspective in life which sought to understand the universe through reason and experience, logic, and experimentation. Okay lang naman sana to basta huwag lumayo kay God. So the Renaissance gave birth to a view of life which encouraged people to follow only external pursuits, blocking their path to God and leading them towards Satan's realm. So ito yung problem ng Renaissance. For this reason, it's Cain type view of life. So palayo kay God. Nag-develop ka pero palayo kay God. Pero naturally, magdi-develop ka ng ganon kasi it is God-given. Diba? Hindi naman i-block ni God yan eh. The Cain type view of life grew through the Enlightenment and matured into Marxism. Enlightenment of the original nature, yung sinasabi nito, which become the cornerstone of the communist world of today. Pag titignan mo mamaya, makikita natin yung just like sa Reformation, nag-start kay Martin Luther na taga-Germany, monk siya ng Germany. Yung Marxism din, nag-start din sa Germany, which is parang sinasabi dito, Satan is always blocking the way of God. Tinatapatan lagi ni Satan si God. Tinatapatan niya kaagad nung nagkaroon ng Reformation based sa tao ni God, which is Martin Luther, tinamatan niya naman ng ng Marxism. So the Abel type view of life. The Reformation spawned philosophies and religious teaching which developed a multidimensional view of life seeking to realize the God-given original nature of human beings. So, yung sa Reformation to. This view of life guided modern people to seek God in a deeper and more thoughtful way. We call this the Abel type view of life. Papunta kay God, thoughtful. In diverse ways, the Abel type view of life matured to form the democratic world of today. So, yun yung sa wars and religion, yung second yung growth stage ng growth stage ng preparation for the second advent, 400 years. So let us now learn yung section 3, which is the period of maturation of politics, economy, and ideology. Sabi nga natin kanina, dun sa first stage at saka second stage, nakasentral siya sa feudalism at sabay-sabay siya doon. Parang yung politics, yung economy, and religion ay magkaisa siya. So, paano naman yung maturation ng politics, economic, and religion sa last 130 years between the French Revolution in 1789 and the end of World War I in 1918. When we say World War I na nag-end noong 1918, ito yung World War wherein ang pinaka-prominent na nangyari sa World War I ay yung pagkamatay ng 2 million Jews, di ba? Sa Germany. Yun yung war na yon. The Cain type and Abel type views of life matured, taking their separate paths. So nag-separate sa panahon na to, nag-separate na yung Cain type and Abel type. Kasi kailangan talagang mag-separate just like just in preparation for the second advent. Kailangan kasi mag-separate yung good and evil, di ba? Para alam mo yung parang separation ng goat at saka sheep. Kailangan mag-separate talaga. As they matured, naaral na natin yun sa previous chapter kung bakit kailangan niyang mag-separate. So hindi ko na kailangan pang i-explain pa. They founded two different forms of society with distinct social structure. Cain type society and an Abel type society. So yung democracy, the Cain type democracy. So mayroong Cain type democracy. In this way, those espousing the Cain type view of life champion the Enlightenment and gave rise to the French Revolution, thus establishing the Cain type democracy. So, yun, yung French Revolution, ito yung nag-end, ito yung war na nag-end ng yung monarchic yung mga tungkol sa mga kings. Yeah. It would later be systematized into Marxism. So, yun yung magandang nangyari sa French Revolution na wala yung mga king, yung mga kingdom. But it later systematized into Marxism in Germany and Leninism in Russia. So, nag-start yung communist war sa Germany, then to Russia, and then now to China. Pero sa tingin ko may pag-asa pa yung China kasi socialist pa lang naman siya eh. Parang socialist pa lang naman siya. Hindi pa naman talaga. May communist China ba talaga?
China.
Hindi nga nila pero hindi nila inaamin. Socialist lang daw sila. And di ba, as yung natin, we need to love our enemy. So we need to love China nang sa ganon makabalik siya kay God. Diba? Ganun yun. So swayed by the Enlightenment, the people were awakened to the flows of absolute monarchy. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, yung mga tungkol sa kings, yung may mga kingdom. The French Revolution was ignited in 1789 by popular calls for democracy from a citizenry schooled in the Enlightenment. They sought to overthrow the power of the ruling class, which is yung monarchy, absolute monarchy. Eradicate the remnants of feudalism. Kasi nga sa feudalism, sumusunod ka lang talaga sa isang tao, di ba? So, sa isang pamilya. Kasi yung mga kings, di ba, yung mga anak ng king, yun din yung magiging leader later on, di ba? Hindi siya napapalitan. So, and establish freedom and equality for ordinary citizens called the third state. So, basahin nyo na lang kung anong ibig sabihin ng third state sa history. And then the French Revolution established democracy with the proclamation of the Declaration of the Rights of Man. After na nag-end yung French Revolution, nag-proclaim din ng Declaration of the Rights of Man. Nonetheless, the democracy born of the French Revolution was Kane-type democracy. This is from the exposition of the divine principle, yung 12 hours. Or yung black book. And how about we are now zoomed in dun sa Abel type democracy. Since sincere Christians, Puritans in England, the fruits of the Abel type view of life founded Abel type democracies through their victorious fight with absolutism to win religious freedom. So in England, nagkaroon ng dalawang parang faction ng klase ng yung Puritans at saka yung mga yung naiwan yung mga sa Roman Catholic Church, di ba? So, nagsik yung mga Puritans na to ng freedom because they were persecuted. So, from the England, nag-travel sila papuntang Amerika. So, yun yung sinasabi. Many Puritans emigrated to the American continent to obtain religious freedom. Yun, nagkaroon kasi ng dalawang faction yung doon sa England. They founded an independent nation in 1776. This is the US of A, United States of America, and established American democracy. The Abel-type democracy was developed from these beginnings into the democratic world of today. That's the reason why na True Father is putting so much work sa Amerika kasi ito yung beginnings niya. So the Puritans in England crossed the Atlantic at the risk of their lives. So para makita natin talaga kung paano yung sacrifice na ginawa talaga ng mga Puritans from England, kailangan tignan natin kung gaano kalayo yung England to the US. Ganun yung travel nila. Tignan natin sa globe o tignan natin sa mapa. Leaving behind their beloved parents, siblings, and hometown, and willing to forsake even their own country for true religious freedom. So, pinosake nila. Ito yung sinasabi ko na they need to, ganun ka powerful yung sacrifice for God. Kasi they sacrifice for God eh. They want religious freedom, so they want to, they sacrifice their lives. Yung talagang tinaya nila yung, they risk their lives. The Mayflower, yung tawag ko sa mga Puritans, arrived in New England in November 1620. Among the 102 arrivals, more than half died from hunger and cold over the first week. Their grace, however, is that they chose to starve to death and leave the seeds untouched to be planted the following year for their descendants. Ganun sila nag-sacrifice for their descendants. Also, living for the sake of others, hindi nila linuto yung mga seeds na yun para kainin nila. Pero talagang sinave nila para maitanim nila yon for their future descendants. So no matter what they did, Puritans firmly believed that they were living for God's will. They dedicated their first harvest to God in gratitude and built church and school before building their own abodes. Kaya nga nauso yung tent eh. Kasi hindi sila, natutulog sila sa tent, dun sila nakatira sa tent, pero nagbibuild sila ng church sa school. During their pioneering days, a prayer always led everything, whether it was farming or going to war. So this is from the speeches of the true parents. So what is the significance of this separation of power? The concept of the separation of powers for the three branches of government was advocated by Montesquieu. It sought to prevent the concentration of political power in the hands of a single individual institution. Ayaw na kasi niyang ayaw kasi si Montesquieu, nakita niya na yung problem na nakalagay sa isang lang, sa isang institution o isang sa church lang yung tatlong powers sa government. So kailangan meron ng separation ng power. This idea was proclaimed in the Declaration of the Rights of Man during the French Revolution or end of the French Revolution. From the beginning, the separation of power was to be characteristic of the political structure of God's ideal society. So, this Montesquieu was guided by God to form this um, idea. Yet here again, Satan was mimicking an aspect of the principle ahead of its realization by God. Talagang si Satan, palagi talagang nakaharang, di ba? Kung may ginawa si God, uunahan niya lagi si God. Hence, the three branches of government, the legislative, the judicial and executive branches should interact in harmonious and principled relationship by following God's guidance as conveyed through Christ. So dapat yung tatlong branches ng government ay i-guide ng Christ of the Second Advent. Wherein kasi siya yung one with God, di ba? So dapat para magkaroon ng harmonious and principled relationship yung tatlong branches na to. Pero yung para mag-guide sila ng parang nag-guide na din ni God kasi nga yung Christ of the Second Advent is one with God. Ito dapat yung ideal political structure of God's ideal society. Pero ano nangyari? Alam naman natin. Ito yung nangyari. So this is today's democracies and ito yung analogy ng today's democracies and the human body. Today's democracies characterized by the three separate branches of government and a proliferation of political parties resemble the structure of a healthy human body to some extent. Since the political parties, so maraming political parties, di ba? Yung legislative branch, yung judicial branch, at saka yung executive branch, mayroon mga political parties lahat yung mga tao na to, yung mga nakaposisyon dyan. So since political parties are ignorant of the will of God, however, they may be compared to a nervous system which is unable to transmit direction from the brain. So, dahil nga ignorant sila sa political parties, ganito yung ginawa ni Satan. Ito yung today's democracy. Diba nauna nga siya, sabi nga, inunahan na naman niya para siyang yung political part like the nervous system which can unable to transmit the brain direction which is corresponding to God. Hindi yung goodness ni God ay hindi ma-transmit dito sa tatlong branches. So ganun yung nangyari sa today's democracy. So since the Constitution, also the Constitution this is the rule of the land, di ba? Na ginawa din ng tao, since Constitution are not written in accordance with the word of God, the three branches of government currently function like internal organs which cannot sense or respond to the commands of the brain because the peripheral nerves have been severed. They lack order and harmony and suffer continual effects among themselves. So I don't think I need to expound this kasi nakikita na natin to sa ating sa ating of our of today's legislative three branches of our government. Ganun nga yung nagkakaroon talaga ng conflicts. Minsan magkaaway pa si legislative, saka si judicial, saka si executive, di ba? Nag-aaway sila instead na mag-harmonize sila. Pag nagbito yung pag nagbito ng gumawa ng ang isang example dito, pag gumawa si Senate o kaya si Congress ng law, tapos pinas nila, tapos kailangan pirmahan nung presidente, ang gagawin na, pag hindi nagustuhan ng presidente, ibibito niya, di ba? Ibabalik na sa kanila. Ibig sabihin ng pag binito niya, hindi sila, hindi siya nag-agree doon. Pero ang gagawin ng legislative is that mag-i-insay siya ng 30 days o 60 days, hindi ko matandaan kung ano talaga, para kahit na ibinito ng presidente yan, pag lumagpas na ng 30 days or 60 days, hindi ko matandaan, magiging law siya whether the president like it or not. Ganun yun. So kaya nagkakaroon ng conflicts. Ayun yung nangyayari sa law natin. Therefore, ano ngayon yung purpose ng Second Advent? Therefore, Christ at the Second Advent will remedy the illness of the present political system. Ito yung political system that may reflect God's design by restoring people's vertical relationship with God. This will unleash society's true potential. So, ganun pa rin siya. So, ang isang purpose ng Second Advent or the Lord of the Second Advent is siya yung magiging guidance, magbibigay ng guidance sa political parties nang sa ganun magkaroon sila ng harmonious relationship. So, this is the reason why our true parents have been trying to reach out political leaders, mga president, kasi yun yung pinakamabilis na paraan para mapabilis natin yung providence pabalik kay God. Diba? Through the political leaders. Kaya natin sinisik sila para kung makikinig sila, itong yung mga political leaders na to, ay makikinig sila sa true parents or sa Lord of the Second Advent, then maayos yung mundo natin. Kasi nga, pwede na silang, nakasunod na sila sa will ni God, yung original will. Yun yung reason kung bakit tayo nagre-reach out ng mga political leaders, such as president, at sino man, basta di ba meron tayong parliament, basta nag-umpisa sa parliament na in-establish ni Mother. And the significance of the Industrial Revolution. Kanina, yung una natin, this is yung yung politics. Ito naman yung aayusin ng Lord of the Second Advent sa economy. So, ano ba yung significance ng Industrial Revolution or economy? The economic structure of the ideal society also resembles the structure of a healthy human body. Production, distribution, and consumption should be an organic, interdependent relationship such as that which exists between the digestive, circulatory, and metabolic system. There should be adequate production. So, adequate yung production niya. Adequate in production of necessary and useful goods. Adequate yung production, hindi kulang. Hindi rin po pwedeng madamihan kasi just like kung madami kang just like sa planting ng rice, di ba? Planting ng rice. Kung in-expose mo yung 3 crops per year, anong mangyayari sa lupa mo? Anong mangyayari sa lupa mo? Magiging ano siya, magiging barren siya. Ibig sabihin yung matatanggal yung fertility niya. So, hindi na siya later on, pagtataniman mo uli siya, hindi na kasing dami yung maha-harvest mo doon dahil nga ano mo na siya na yung capacity niya or yung pagiging fertile niya is na use up mo. So kailangan adequate siya. Adequate siya, hindi kulang pero hindi rin dapat sobra. Yun yung ibig sabihin nito. And then, saan ako? Production, and then fair distribution to supply what is sufficient to people's need. So, ibig sabihin, yung fair yung distribution, hindi mo dapat i-hoard. Diba? Kasi ito yung laws ng economic, diba? Pag maliit ang supply, konti ang supply, tataas yung ibabayad mo, diba? So, pag hinord mo, tataas yung ibabayad mo. Fair pa ba yun? Hindi siya. Kasi hindi naman, unnatural naman yung ginawa mo. Hinord mo siya eh. So, dapat walang hoarding. Fair dapat yung distribution. Yun yung ibig lang sabihin nito. And then, reasonable consumption in harmony with the purpose of the whole. Reasonable consumption, wag niyo akong gagayahin ng masyadong maraming kainin tapos, di ba, masasayang din lang naman. Parang gano'n. Tataba, yun. Yung iba, payat, nagiging malnourished dahil ginagawa mo sila ng pagkain, di ba? Pwede mo naman share, gano'n. So, the mass production born of the Industrial Revolution led England to claim vast colonies of sources of raw materials and markets for goods. In so doing, the Industrial Revolution opened up a vast territory of the propagation of the gospel. Accordingly, it contributed to both the internal and external aspects of the providence of restoration. So, ang Industrial Revolution kasi started with pag sinabi natin Industrial Revolution, ang tawag dito, mass production yung ang mass production of goods, of processed goods, di ba? At ang pinakaunang sa mass production is printing. So, ito na yung sa mass production, ang unang, dahil printing, nag-print nga ng maraming Bible during this time. Kasi nakapag-mass-produce nakapag-print ng madami so that, diba, may sinasabi na kapag, sabi ni Jesus Christ, kapag yung gospel is na-spread all over the world na, babalik na si Jesus Christ. O, parang gano'n. Yun yung sinasabi, diba? So, yun, na i-distribute yung maraming Bible around the globe because of the Industrial Revolution. Ito yung pinakamagandang nangyari sa Industrial Revolution. So, which started with printing, yung printing, ano ba tawag doon? Mechanical, and then pagkatapos is mechanical, and then electronics, and then computers. Parang gano'n. Yun yung revolution ng industry. Parang gano'n. So, following the Industrial Revolution sparked by the rapid progress of science, industrialization created economies characterized by overproduction. The great powers of Europe grew strong as they competed with each other in the scramble of colonies. So, ito yung naging problema din sa industrialization, nagkaroon ng overproduction. And then, pag nagkaroon tayo ng overproduction, na expose mo din yung environment mo, nasira mo din yung environment mo. Ganon, yun din yun. And then, Cain and Abel type trends in ideology and economic development caused the latter political divisions of the world into states of democracy and communism. So, ano yung ano naman? Sa section 4, we will be uh, talking about the world wars. Ano yung significance ng world wars? Kailangan ba talaga ng world wars? So, the providential causes of the world wars. Wars break out due to such factors as conflicts of political and economic interests and classes of ideology. Yet, these are merely external causes. And there are also internal causes of war. So, ito yung alam natin is that political, economic interest, and classes of ideology, yun yung reason ng war. Pero meron tayong internal causes of war. Ito yung dinidiscuss ng divine principle. Accordingly, we cannot grasp the providential significance of the world war by focusing only on external causes. So ano yung internal causes of the world war? What are the internal providential causes of the world wars? The world wars have occurred first as a result of Satan's last desperate struggle to preserve his sovereignty. Yun. Second, in order to fulfill the worldwide indemnity condition to restore the three great blessings effectively realized by Satan in advance, as we have already uh, uh, discuss it one by one. Kailangan ma-restore yung three great blessings. And then in order for all humanity may overcome on the world level the three temptations by which Satan tempted Jesus Christ. And fourth, in order to fulfill the worldwide indemnity condition to restore God's sovereignty. So the First World War, which is 1914 to 1918. Summary, akin pa rin ba? Summary of providence in the First World War. The political sphere, the First World War, in the political sphere, the First World War was a conflict between Abel-type democracies and Cain-type authoritarian states. In the economic sphere, it was fought between the imperialist nations on God's side and the imperialist nations on Satan's side. In the sphere of religion and ideology, the Abel-type nation of Great Britain, the United States, and France was generally upheld Christianity. Both the Cain-type nation of Turkey persecuting Christianity, and its allies Germany and Austria-Hungary. So ito yung summary of the providence of the First World War. So the providential result of the First World War, victory on God's side. So the victory on God's side in the First World War fulfilled the formation state's indemnity condition to restore God's three great blessings worldwide. Fulfilled the indemnity condition to restore. Number 2, fulfill the indemnity condition to restore God's first blessing worldwide by overcoming Jesus' temptation on the worldwide level. Kasi alam naman natin na yung three temptation of Jesus Christ represent the three great blessings, di ba? This time, since Jesus Christ, dispensation of Jesus Christ coming is worldwide, so kaya doon, overcoming the First World War is also synonymous in overcoming the three temptations of Jesus Christ on the worldwide level. Established through the victory of democracy, the formation states foundation for the restoration of God's sovereignty. In conclusion, with the victory of God's side in the First World War, the foundation was laid for the second advent of the Messiah. From that time, the formation stage of the dispensation of the second advent commenced. So, yun. Ano naman yung significance of the Second World War, which is runs through 1939 to 1945. In the Second World War, democracy. So yung sa First World War, nakalimutan ko it commenced kasi 1918, yung panahon na to, because of the victory of the first God's side, it is now safe for the second advent to be born. Kung makikita nyo, ang laki ng before nagkaroon ng Second World War, merong period na peaceful siya para kasi kung ipapanganak yung Messiah before 1918, kasi may war pa doon, pwede siyang mamatay, di ba? Tapos ipapanganak yung Messiah pagkatapos ng ang pinaka-safe talaga na ipanganak yung Messiah is after the First World War bago mag-start yung Second World War. Ang Second World War started 1936. Tama ba? 1936 ay 19. Parang gano'n. 1936. So dapat within that period 1919 to 1936 or 1935 dapat ipanganak yung Messiah kasi yun yung pinaka-safe na ipanganak siya. In the Second World War, so makikita nyo, di ba, 1918 to 1939, yun yung Second World War. Ang end ng First World War is 1918. So mayroong peaceful time ng 1918 or 1919 to 1938, di ba? Pag susundan natin to. Kasi nag-start yung Second World War na yan. So yung pinaka-peaceful time, the best time for the Messiah to be born is yung panahon na yon. So, nagkataon lang ba yon? Nagkataon lang ba yon na ganon? I think it is God's plan for the Messiah to be born between 1918 to 1938. In the Second World War, democracy, US, Britain, France, while standing upon the formation states victory attained the First World War, defeated fascism, Germany, Japan, Italy, and secured victory of the growth stage. So the victory of God's side on the Second World War fulfill the growth stage indemnity condition to restore God's three great blessings worldwide, having the significance of overcoming Jesus' second temptation on the world level. It fulfilled the indemnity condition to restore God's second blessing worldwide. So ito yung significance ng Second World War. Established the growth stage foundation to restore God's sovereignty by laying the growth stage foundation for the democratic world. So, kailan ba, So, the age of building a new heaven and a new earth under the leadership of the Christ at the second advent had begun, and the growth stage of the dispensation of the second advent commenced. So, kailan ba na-receive ni Jesus, ni True Father, yung revelation, kay when was Jesus Christ asked, what year ba inas ni Jesus Christ si Father na na i-continue yung kanyang mission? It is during the Second World War. Yung period na to. Tama ba? No. 1935, di ba? Before yon, kaya nga sabi dito, the age of the new heaven and the new earth, that's the reason why na pwede nang nag-start kasi nasabihan na ni Jesus Christ si Father na siya yung magiging siya yung magpapatuloy ng kanyang magpapatuloy ng kanyang mission. So, kaya yun yung sinasabi dito, the age of building a new heaven and a new earth under the leadership of the Christ of the second advent had begun, and the growth stage of the dispensation of the second advent commenced. So, nasabihan na, kasi 15 years old, di ba? 15 years old sa counting natin, pero sa Korean counting is 16 years old, and that is 1936. So, kaya pwedeng-pwede nang mag-commence yung building of new heaven and a new earth kasi nga nag-receive na ni Father. Ibig sabihin, tinanggap na ni Father the young Sang Myung Moon have already received or tawag dito, tinanggap na niya yung pagiging Lord of the Second Advent niya. So the Third World War, is the Third World War inevitable? So ito yung tanong. At this consummation of human history, Satan's side and God's side will strive until they each attain sovereignty over a world. This is why the democratic world and the communist world stand confronting each other. The First and Second World Wars had the providential purpose of dividing the globe into the communist world and democratic world. Afterward, yet another war must take place to bring about their unification. This conflict is the Third World War. Naintindihan natin, di ba, dun sa chapter 1, part 1, ano nangyari? Kailangan kasi magkaroon ng origin, division, union. Di ba? Magdi-divide muna siya and then mag-unite siya. Di ba? Ito rin yung sinasabi dito. One way to bring, kasi talagang kailangan, di ba sabi natin, recreation, yung restoration is recreation. So, pag mag-create ka, merong origin, division, union. Yun din yung sinasabi. One way to bring Satan's side to surrender is through armed conflict. And the other way was war. This war may be fought as a wholly internal ideological conflict. By which of these two ways will the Third World War actually be fought? It depends upon the success or failure in carrying out the human portion of responsibility. We will go to war if God's side, if the Cain side or the Satan side or the communist side will not succumb to democracy. Pero hindi tayo magkakaroon ng war kung kung ma-assimilate ng democracy si communism. the providential result of the Third World War. By winning victory in the Third World Wars, which belong to the final chapter of providential history, God intends to restore through indemnity the entire providence which was prolonged to the third stage. So ito yon. The providence of restoration can be completed only after fallen peoples restore their heart toward God through God's life-giving word, are saved both spiritually and physically, and inherit God's lineage. The victories of God's side will fully restore through indemnity all the aspects of the providence of restoration. They will make possible the realization of God's ideal work for which God has labored with unremitting tears over the centuries of human misery since the fall. So that's self-explanatory. And that ends the uh, chapter 5 of the part 2 of the Divine Principle. Good evening, brothers and sisters.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Relina, for the informative lecture. And let's give a round of applause to our lecturer this evening. Okay, a little recap of our lecture this evening. So, the preparation for the second advent of the Messiah was the 400-year period from Protestant Reformation in 1517 to the end of World War I in 1618. So it was divided into three periods. This is the Protestant Reformation, yes, the religious and ideological conflicts, and maturation of politics, economy, and ideology. So in Protestant Reformation, this is the Cain and Abel movement began. And for religious and ideological conflicts, wherein this Cain type and Abel type views of life develops. And in maturation of politics, economy, and ideology, so it is wherein it matures to Cain type democracy, which is communism of today, and to Abel type democracy, which is our democratic world of today. And also the world wars. So there has these providential causes of these wars. So not only external, like conflicts of in politics, economy, and ideology, but also internal, which is, I'll give one. This is the last struggle of Satan to preserve his territory or sovereignty. So the victory of these world wars, example in World War One, okay, it lays the foundation for the birth of the second advent. And the victory on the Second World War, it restores or creates this new heaven and new earth under the Lord of the second advent. So the third war would be the completion and the realization of God's ideal world. So, okay, now let's go to reflection. So, first, before we will have our wheel of fortune, I'd like to ask for volunteer. So, who will volunteer? Sino bang ano dyan may volunteering spirit.
Ano daw sabihin mo? 1945%. No? Yun yung kailangan kasi may establish dapat yun. No?
From brother,
Christian.
how about brother? Hello. From the sister. How about Sister Christine? Okay, let's welcome Sister Christine for her reflection.
So, good evening, Heavenly Parents. Good evening, true parents. Good evening, lecturers, elders, brothers, and sisters. My reflection about the Ate Relina's lecture this evening is knowing the history. I am so much grateful that even in this era, I've been given the opportunity to really know this kind of seminar, and knowing the past, how they what is the steps in their time in receiving the second advent or the first advent, Jesus Christ. And I am so much, I'm shocked, honestly. First, if when I hear this lecture, I'm so shocked that there is a deep meaning in everything happened in the past. And I'm so motivated to really know more deeply about this history, so that in the future, in this present time, I would definitely embrace and welcome the second advent with without doubt in myself, that really uh, really appreciate and be grateful on what he did to save humanity. And yes, this time of the really knowing the divine principle is so hard to really realize. If I am in my first receiving it, is so much parang mabigat po na di ko po ma-explain kasi it was my first time, and that time is like I'm a strong, yes, Catholic, and I am so much have so many questions in that time, because really the lectures are so many deeply, and I don't know, I can't explain it more, but total realization is that knowing the history is really important, so that in the future we could realize, or we could parang iwasan natin kung ano yung naging naging dahilan kung bakit na-prolong yung mga, or naging failed yung mga ancestors natin. And yes, more on that, it was my motivation then to really know more the divine principles so that I could teach all those people who are ignorant on what is history. And that could be all. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Christinette. So Christinette said he appreciates for always having this opportunity to study the divine principle, and he was grateful for True Parents for his work in saving humankind, and also she has no doubt about everything, the principle, and also for knowing the history that we can learn from that, and also knowing the principle that he could share that to other people who are ignorant of yes, the truth. Okay, thank you, Christina. Okay, now let's go to our wheel of fortune. The Sister Munens. Hey, let's welcome Brother Vince for his reflection.
Hello po, naririnig po ba?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay po, thank you. So, good evening, um, lovely parents, lecturers, brothers and sisters. Good evening. So, my reflection today po. So, I really have this way of thinking po about sa history and sa in the politics po. My way of thinking was about history is it's all about time, places, events po. But that's my common way of thinking, and also sa politics din po. Um I thought that it is so very far away from the religion po, because it doesn't relate if and so I'm really thankful po din sa history, because it is written so that we could study it po, and so that we could learn from it po, because that is what yun po talaga yung purpose ng history, para ma-study po natin at makita natin kung saan na ba yung ano po ay yung mga pagbabago, may study po natin yung mga pagbabago sa sa pag ano ng panahon through passing times po. So in history I have realized I have learned how have people go through a lot of conditions and then just in order to form an environment for the second advent, and also for the last section with sa last part na po sa topic, in which is in the third in the third war po pala. So the third war. So as attendant po, as a person of the last days po, representing able side po. We need this is my chance po to really commit and also do the right thing po, do the right thing na po from people's to bring Cain side and to change their way of thinking po, way of thinking so that they could submit and we could bring them to God. So yun lang po. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Vince, for the reflection. And Vince said that he was grateful for the history. That through this, we can learn from that, and also the changes in history, and also with regards to the world wars as descendants. So he has this resolve that uh, he can submit Cain as Abel to natural submission by sharing these ideas. So if you have questions, you can, during your reflection, you can uh, say it verbally or on the chat box. So, okay, let's continue with the other for reflection. Okay, let's welcome Brother Patrick for his reflection.
Good good evening po, elders, brothers
Good
and sisters.
evening.
For my reflection for this topic that we had discussed, uh, I learned that God's way of preparing for the second advent of the Messiah is separating the Abel side and the Cain side, the internal and external. So with that, we saw that kanang upon the separation, supposedly those two sides would reunite with each other, but they had difficulty in reuniting with each other. So reflecting it with my life now, uh, gone, it is really hard. Okay, as what we can see with the history, they had difficulty in uniting the Cain and the Abel side. So kanang as what also I have seen in my life now, it is really hard to to unite the Cain and Abel side, especially within myself. That the mind representing the able part of me and the body representing the Cain. So it's really hard to unite the mind and body because as what we can as what I have experienced now, really my body is what dominates my mind, and it's really hard to really liberate my mind from my body. And also it's also hard to uh, really unite with my Abel like that. And so with this determination, like kanang as also what I have learned from the uh, the teachings of our true Father, that in order for us to liberate our mind from our body is to do things that our body hates. That is to fast, to serve, and to sacrifice. So by kanang also one step of doing all those things is that kanang by being a full time here in the movement, uh kanang stepping out of my comfort zone, like trying to really do my best to serve and to sacrifice like that. So can so that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Patrick, for your reflection. And Patrick said that he learned history through the separation of Cain and Abel towards the second advent, and he himself has these struggles also in uniting his mind and body, which he said represents Abel, Cain, and also he learns from true father that through fasting, uh, prayer, or something conditions that our body hates that we should do to really bring about the unity of mind and body. So um, let's go for the next for reflection. Okay, let's welcome Sister Juna May for her reflection.
Nawala po siya, kuya. Si Ate Janami po. Na-disconnect po siya.
Yung last na lang.
Si Ate Josephine po.
Let's welcome Sister Josephine for her reflection.
Good evening po sa lahat.
Good evening.
Advent po is preparation para po sa Advent is preparation time for the coming of Jesus. Advent is a season of patience and waiting. Therefore, Advent time is appropriate period to be renewed. It's time po para palawakin pa natin ang paniniwala natin sa religion at matuto tayo maghintay. Yun lang po muna. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sister Josephine, for her reflections. So she said that we should hindi ko masyadong narinig yung ano. Pakiulit mo ano, sister.
Preparation po para sa pag-iintay para sa second coming of Messiah.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. At patatagayin pa yung paniniwala sa religion. Thank you.
Okay, she said for preparation for the second advent of the Messiah. And we should also think about our widening our scope in learning more about God's will. Okay, thank you, Sister Josephine. And I'd like to ask lecturers if you have questions. First to Sister Relina, if you have question to the participants. Or participants, if you have question first.
Oo nga. Wala nang, hindi na nagko-question si Miss Christinette. Ba't ganon? Dati nagko-question siya. Wala ka ng question, Miss Christinette. Dati tuwa ka ng question mo kasi na-exercise yung aming brain. Ay, no, wala siya. Nasaan na siya, Miss Christinette?
Wala.
Nandiyan na
Good evening po. Wala pa po akong question. Naintindihan ko po.
Kasi kung walang question, yung lecturer ang mag-question. Sister Relina will start to ask.
Ganun ang daya ni Kuya. Wala pa akong maisip. Baka may iba rin. Yung iba meron na silang maisip. Mag-isip pa ako.
Other lecturers, Brother Herwin, question for them.
Oo, haba pa ng oras natin.
We have
Wala.
much time.
Lang question. Wait lang. The preparation for the Senate. Next muna, next. Baliga ka later.
Okay, kay Sister Sylvia.
Mapilitan tayo talaga nito, oy. Joke. Magandang gabi po ulit.
Good evening.
Yeah, the lecture is really very interesting, and yun bang in the during the preparation of, I mean, yung history and the democratic, yung separation of government, which is being, bakit sa palagay nyo kailangan merong tatlong branches? What is that for? Yung halimbawa yung executive, yung judiciary, at saka yung legislative. Why do you think it has to be like that way? Para ano kaya yung sa palagay nyo ang purpose? Bakit ganun ang ginawa? Ano ba ang gusto ipahiwatig doon? In that pattern, which is likened to our internal organs. Sa palagay nyo, bakit ganun ang ginawa? Yung how would I question it ba? Why it has to be divided by into three branches ang form of government?
Okay, who will volunteer from the participants to answer the question? Why there are three separate branches of government like this: legislative, judicial, and executive?
Executive.
Yes. Who will volunteer? Or again, Wheel of Fortune? Is there any volunteer? Okay, Sister Munina, yung natin, Wheel of Fortune.
And then follow up, kuya, anong relationship nito doon sa providence for the coming of the second advent?
Okay, additional question. Sister Munens. Ako muna habang nagpe-prepare si Sister Munina. Okay, dito na, okay na. Sister Sylvia, pakilagay mo na lang sa chat box
Okay po.
para nila basa-basahin yung mga next reflect. Okay, nauna talaga si Christinette. So let's welcome Christinette.
Favorite siya ni God.
Para may mali.
Parang may mali.
Ano po ulit yung question? Kasi parang
Parang ang hirap, no? Ako nga, nahirapan ako mag-question. Hindi. Why do you think is the reason does the three form of government has to be separated to three? And then what is its relationship to the providence of the second advent? Preparation for the coming of the second advent.
Thank you so much, Ate Sylvia, for that wonderful question.
Pang Miss Universe na answer, oh. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Um, for me po, own opinion ko lang po to. Uh, for me po, the three, the, ay, three separate branches po na yung legislative, judicial, executive is for me po kasi alam po natin na that three is in in uh, in not united ng ganun po tapos for me po it is three steps on receiving the second advent by um parang in relation na lang po sa three great blessings that legislative would be the first step so that we could be in the perfection of characteristic. Then second is the second blessing, which is opinion ko lang po to. And and the three this one po, if we unite, it will be united as one. It is ano na lang po, easy to humanity to receive the second advent. Okay lang po ba yung answer ko? Yan na po yun. Naswat ko ba?
Thank you, Christinette, for your answer. Okay, next. Kunens. Okay, let's welcome Brother Patrick for his answer.
Good evening once again, elders, brothers and sisters. So for my answer for that question, uh, uh, we learned in the part one of the divine principle that a man has a unique nature. So I believe that every man is equal, but we are unique from each other. Then, I think that God or our heavenly parent made that three separate is to assign man based on our talents and capabilities. Like there are people who can be good in the legislative, so those can be assigned in that area of the government. Then same for the judiciary and same for the executive. Then I also think that why God separated the government into three is because it is also part of His nature. Because we also learned that God is a our heavenly parent is a God of number three. So I think that is also a reason why He separated the government into three. So that would be all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, for your answer. Okay, next. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's welcome Sister Josephine.
No answer? Um, Hiwa-hiwalay. Paano ba yan? Di ko alam sagot.
Yeah, just your thought of those three branches, separate branches of government.
They separate the governance po siguro para maging maayos yung pamamalakad. Para maging maayos yung yung siguro pa pinaghiwalay maybe because yung para maging maayos yung kanilang layuning magawa para sa ikabubuti ang pagdating ng second Messiah. No answer? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Josephine. Okay, the last but not the least, Brother Vince.
Kuya, nawala po si Kuya Bing. Ay, nandiyan po ba?
Let's welcome Brother Vince for his answer.
Hello po. Naririnig po ba?
Yes, loud and clear.
So, I think po, judiciary, legislative, and ano nga po yung terms? They exist because, for example po, if the judiciary, judiciary side ay anong tawag dito? Gagawa ng, anong tawag dito? Yung may gagawin sila na mali. Nandun yung judiciary nandun yung legislative para siya yung parang siya judiciary pag may gagawin yung mali. Kapag may gagawing mali yung judiciary, ang legislative, yun yung parang anong tawag dito parang mag-stop sa judiciary kung meron man siyang gawing anumang mali. At sa judiciary din po, kapag may gagawin din po itong mali, yung last na po no party is yun din po yung susuporta para ma-stop yung mga kamalian at itama yung mga mali na ginawa ng judiciary part. So, yun siguro po yung Yun po yung guess ko po. So, thank you po.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Okay, how about Ate Sylvia? Sister Sylvia, anong...
Ako sasagot na nun. Joker.
Ano sagot natin dyan?
Yeah, of course, because we know that God is a being of number 3, right? And then he himself bestowed upon us his intellect, his emotion, and will. And in preparation, ito yung mga kailangan natin para ma-perfect, na kailangan nating i-attain to be ma-unify natin to become a true representative of heavenly parents. Di po ba? So, itong tatlo na to, branches for me. Legislation is like the heart of it represents the emotion because it's para ito yung although yung judiciary siya yung nagbibigay ng justice kung ano yung ginawa natin, but yung executive naman siya yun yung will niya na yun talaga yung dapat gawin, yung parang ganun. So ito yung nawala kasi sa atin, of which I could be wrong in relating it into these 3 faculties that God has endowed to human beings, but gusto talaga ni God ma-prepare natin ito for the coming of the Messiah, kasi ito yun din yung i-unite kung saan externally ito din dapat magkaroon ng unity to completely establish the kingdom of heaven here on earth, yung ideal of creation niya. Pero bago yun mangyari, of course, you have to achieve unity of this as a being, as a person, as an individual. Itong tatlong faculties na ito ay dapat natin ma-inherit from heavenly parents, dapat natin ma-perfect. So, ganun din yung gusto niyang, kasi si God is a God of essence and and substance, di po ba? So, binibigyan talaga tayo ni God ng ano na talaga, yung lahat ng chances o lahat ng ng ways para ma-understand natin yung will niya. And of which yung being din niya, 'di ba? Hinintulad din niya doon sa tatlong organs natin internally. Kung saan itong tatlong yung lung, yung heart, yung ganun, nag complement to one another para maging maigi or okay yung flow, yung operation, yung pagiging yung operational structure ng tao is a being externally. So yun din yung ganun din yung role nung tatlong branches ng government. Ulitin ko na. Uulitin ko pa. Yan yung nagre-represent ng three faculties na of God has endowed to us, which is His essence, para i-perfect natin in preparation for the realization of the kingdom of heaven here on earth. Yan lang po. Thank you po.
Yung additional na ano mo na, yung kanina.
Yung relationship nga po yung kuya is parang as an individual, ano po ba itong tatlong ano bang gagawin natin dito sa tatlong faculties na ito? So yung tatlong branches na to dapat magkaroon ng unity centering upon one being, which is God, of course, centering upon God. And then hindi man yun si God diretso, no? Sino yung leader natin? Whoever is the leader of the government should be a true representative of God, naging united with the will and the heart and the intellect of God, para yung tatlong branches na yun ay magkaroon ng harmony. So magiging maayos din yung totoong yung government na yun. Yung tatlong branches na yun. Siya yung kasi naglilid, siya yung nagbibigay ng life, nagbibigay ng love, nagbibigay din yun ng yung realization ng will niya, na understanding yung heart at saka yung will niya. Kailangan magkaroon yun ng unity. And then that should be the central person na, of course, that would be the Messiah na. And it's only the Messiah who could really do it. And then it is the ultimate, that's the new truth, tinuturo niya sa atin kung paano ba natin yun i-achieve. And then it's only the central figure, which is the second advent, who could really bring into substance itong tatlong to. Na kung titingnan natin in relation to, titingnan natin ngayon, si True Father, inelaborate niya talaga paano ba natin natin ma-achieve yung perfection of character, perfection of heart, and perfection of knowledge or know how to, at perfection of character na yung inheritance natin sa yung heart niya, sa will niya, at saka sa intellect niya, na-achieve na ng true parents ng ating ng second advent, which is True Father. And then yun yung tinuturo niya sa atin. So yun po yung relationship niya, why it has to be bakit ganun ang yung bagang revelation yun doon sa time na yun, bakit nagkaroon sila ng ganong manifestation sa separation of three branches, kasi preparation yun sa pagdating ng second advent na ito, which is True Father, na siya mismo ang maka-perfect nung paano ba natin to gagawin, wherein kung sa present time, di ba po, kung yung teaching ng ni true parents, yun yung hinahanap ng lahat ng form of government. Kasi yung pagkakaalam nila, yung separation ng tatlong branches na yon, akala nila na separate, independent, hindi sila interdependent, actually, akala nila ganun. But in reality, and idealistically speaking, interdependent talaga yon dapat. That is to really run a really ideal government, which is headed by a central figure, which is the second advent. Yan. So lahat ng mga political leaders sana dapat magkaroon ng ganun ding attitude or character, a true representative of our loving heavenly parents, which is our creator po, manifesting his three faculties. Yan. I hope I don't know if I have said it well, pero yun yung ibig kong i-point out doon po. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you, Sister Sylvia. Okay, from other lecturers, if you can add something on that.
I want to add here.
Okay, let's welcome Brother
Sure po,
Irvin.
kuya. Thank you for saving my day.
Three branches of ano, political structure ng government. It started with Baron de Montesquieu, diba? During the French Revolution. Nangyari siya, unang-una, let us first know kung bakit kailangan ng three branches of ganun yung ginawa ni Montesquieu yun. Kasi during the French Revolution, pangit na yung pamamalakad ng ng government at that time. It is handled, the power is handled only by one individual. Kaya since ayaw ni Baron de Montesquieu ng ganon, so he decided to have this three branches of government kasi ang purpose niya is to separate powers according to the principle, divine principle sa book. To separate, para mas-separate yung power hindi lang sa isang tao. Okay lang naman sa isang tao, ang problema lang is ang taong yun who have that power is not centering upon God. Yun ang naging problema. Kasi kung titingnan natin sa ideal kingdom, di ba? Sa Chunilgok, the Chunilgok will come, of course, during the Chunilgok time, true parents lang yung mamumuno. Right? Single individual. The
Like
point
Ed
there is it is the ideal the society would be centering upon God, even though it is managed by one individual. But during that time, kasi mali yung pamamalakad, isang tao lang, ganun yung power, so divide. So kailangan yung three divisions. It is because para if one will decide, yung isa, i-question niya, tama ba yan? Is that legal? It is para ba yan sa lahat? O, yung isa. Tapos paano yan siya i-apply? O, itong tatlong to, they will ask each other which could benefit for the general. So yun. Ang point there is it is necessary, kinakailangan niya siya sa history. It is because from the very beginning, yung power is the position, ang umahawak ng position is hindi maganda. Hindi, according sa history, di ba, merong democracy pero hindi maganda yung democracy. This is according this is belong siya sa democracy. Merong communism, socialism, mga ganung hindi maganda, hindi maging maganda. So kailangan yung three branches. That is the result of being irresponsible of those leaders of holding these powers. Ngayon, kailangan siya in line with the providence, kailangan siya at this point of time, it is because centering upon true parents in connection with sinabi ni Ate Sylvia. But originally, hindi siya dapat talaga. Because only one individual with true parents, and then kasi yun na, from the very beginning talaga kay Adam and Eve, doon talaga magsisimula lagi. Kung hindi lang sila nag-fall, we're just following them, parents. That's it. Living parang natural life, centering from God. So yun. Sir Marco. Okay, thank you so much. May question dito sa
Okay, thank you, Brother Irvin. So there's one more question here. Okay, there is one more question here. Okay, if you can look it in the chat box. So if you are alive during the time of wars, what will you do to change the situation during the time? Okay, who will volunteer from participants? Is there any volunteer? Christinette. Just few words para lahat makaano.
Sige po.
5 minutes more.
For my own opinion na lang po.
Okay.
If you were alive during
Personal,
the time
personal.
of war, what will you do to change the situation? For me po, if I am in the situation in the World War po, I am definitely one of that person na was telling the truth to everyone po, that even though it's hard to ano po na makonect sila, but if may isa po na mag-stand out to really what is right, maybe it is one of the steps that really people will really hands, kasi po di ba sabi po ni Father na utmost sincerity moves heaven. So kung I have this sincerity to save humanity or save my fellow people, so maybe I can stop the war on that time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Sister Christinette. Okay, one from the brother. Sinong mag-volunteer? The last to answer.
Vince!
Okay, Vince now.
Vince, kung
Brother
ikaw
Vince.
si Hitler,
Let's welcome Brother Vince.
pasimplihan natin.
Hello po. Pakiulit.
Pasimplihan natin yung question. Sabi,
Sige.
kung ikaw si Hitler, anong gagawin mo? Meron kang bad experience, di ba? Towards the Jews. And then, hindi. Siya nag-launch ng war, di ba? Si Hitler. Anong gagawin mo?
Hello po, naririnig po ba?
Bubuhayin
Yes.
daw yun.
Loud and clear.
Bubuhayin mo
Kaya
yung war.
naririnig ka, Vince.
Gosh.
Naririnig ka. Kung ikaw si Hitler.
Ako si Hitler po.
Yes.
Kung ako si Hitler. So, hirap na talaga. Lalo na kapag,
Ipagpapatuloy mo ba yung war?
kung ako pa po yung si Hitler tapos hindi ko pa po nalaman yung divine principle po. Yung mga principles. Siguro, kung nalaman ko po yung divine principle po sa time na naging ako si Hitler, talagang i-stop ko po talaga yung war. Imbis na engage ako ng world war. Papatayin ko yung Jews kasi may mga ginawa silang mali sa akin. Instead na ganun, because I know divine principle during that time when I was Hitler po, if the divine principle was published po, I would rather choose to give the motto in the divine principle as that says true love po, which is true love that gives and gives even though it hurts po, still wants to give po. So I think that's that's what I'm gonna do po. Give love to them po. So that ayun po.
Pag hindi mo
Unity
alam
and
yung
harmony.
principle,
Naku.
how about if you don't do the principle based on your own personality?
Based on my own personality po.
Yes.
Ako
You
naman
don't
po,
know the
meron naman po akong attitude na kung saan yung tama, doon talaga ako. Hindi po talaga ako pumapanig sa kung anong mali kasi alam ko naman po talaga kung ano yung tama at saka mali. So,
Kahit sinaktan ka nila.
oo. As time passed by po, nagiging mature ka naman, magiging mature naman po yung feelings natin. Parang kung sa evolution pa, parang nag-evolve yung emotions po. Imbis na kasi sa tingin ko po araw-araw kasi po natin nararanasan yung mga ganung bagay po, di ba? So maybe if I were in that time po and having that attitude po, hindi po talaga yun mangyayari. Wala po talagang world war na mangyayari kasi I'm really coping up po to do good po because that is my attitude po, and also I would really rather kahit anong klase bang sakit na binigay nila sa akin, I think I could really tolerate naman po because ayun na nga po, evolving. Parang as we grow, nag-i-evolve din yung so yun lang po. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Sana
Vince.
ikaw na lang si Hitler.
Nakita, I saw Juna May, so hindi pa siya nakapag-reflect o ano. So I'll give her a chance to answer the question. Let's welcome Juna May.
Hi po, good evening po. Nag-e-error po yung Zoom ko kanina and hindi ko po
Okay.
mabasa yung question.
Ito siya. If you were alive during the time of wars, what will you do to change the situation during that time?
Okay. At that time po siguro, if ever I receive the DP or this movement, I'll try hard and make effort to win other people's heart po. Kasi it's easy po kasi na to tell other people, oh, this is right, ganun. Pero yung parang learning po is practice po kasi. So if I am at that time, siguro I will promote goodness to others and win their hearts by becoming a citizen who will embrace the world and hopefully makatulong po na ma-erase all the nation boundaries within my heart and their heart. So, yun po siguro at that time.
Okay, thank you, Junamay,
Uh,
for the answers. So this time, I'll ask Sister Lina for the closing prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Good evening, our most loving Heavenly Parents. Thank you, parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. Father, we have just completed our fruitful and wonderful study of the divine principle, especially Heavenly Father, the preparation of the Lord of the Second Advent. And we have learned, Heavenly Father, how we will be doing our responsibility as we will be facing now, Heavenly Father, the Third World War, which is yet to come, Heavenly Father, or maybe we are now feeling it or experiencing it, and that may we be able, Heavenly Father, as we learn and as a reflection of the lecture, be able to know how to act and to do our portions of responsibility so that we can win over this Third World War, and that it would be on for the victory of God, and that so that we could establish the original ideal of creation. Father, we report this and pray this through the participants, of the lecturers and staff, in the names of Pray and Elena Donados and Alta's family. Amen.
Aju. So that ends our session this evening. Thank you, participants, for your coming and participation. Also, thank you for our lecturers for the add-ons, the questions. And see you next time. And also don't forget to write your reflections. Okay, good evening and good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for your participation.
Yeah po. Good night po.
See you next time.
Safe and well, everyone. Have a good night rest.
Ngayong gabi, good night po.
Talagang si Miss Christine at favorite ni God,
Paborito
Hindi
ng
naman po.
bayan.
I'm in the Wheel of Fortune. Favorite.
Ako lang po yung timing yan.
Probably fortune yan eh. Mainly fortune.
Right? Yun po.
Oh.
Thank you po. Ay, di naman po. Parang nagkataon lang po yun.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye po.
Bye. See you on Monday. Grabe na kayo mag-graduate. Grabe. Bye. Good night.